Passion, drive, persistence, resilience, love. All qualities that shape and define us. Join the Cyber Warrior as he helps shape your path. This is Walk With Me. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another amazing episode of Walk With Me. I am your host, as always, on this journey, the Cyber Warrior. And yes, today we are back with some amazing guests. And these are guests that are part of a different community that I'm a part of. And I felt it was very vital because this episode is going to be all about community. It's all about your support systems, your community, and things of that nature. So we're going to get into some conversations that for some you may or may not agree with, and that's okay. All right. This is one of those things where you may not agree with everything, and that's not a bad thing. That's the point of these discussions, is being able to talk about things and really just stress how important it is to us. So I have several communities I'm a part of, and this is one of them. So without further ado, let me bring on two of my guests. We have Megan and we have Heathen Austin. I'm just going to call him Austin, but you know, that's how it's going to go. How you two doing this evening?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain at all. You know, it's funny because I used to do this show by myself, and then I had a friend, Andrea, on 2 weeks ago, and I was like, you know, it's so much better talking to others.
Yeah.
It really is.
So it's one of those things, though. Like, I look at it, and community is very important to me, and it has helped me out in so many different ways. And I'll get into all of my communities here in a little bit, but as far as, you know, we'll start with Megan, your perspective. What types of communities are you involved in? And it doesn't just have to be in person, it can be online, as we all know. And how has that kind of helped you?
So I am part of, especially on TikTok, I am part of the heathen or Norse pagan and witch talk. And I entered that community almost over a year ago as a Christian. And the community just embraced me. I was like, hi, I like you guys. You're amazing content creators and I want to learn. And it just went from there. The entire community embraced me, lifted me up, anytime I had questions, they answered everything they could. And if they couldn't, they pointed me to person that could. And those communities mean so much to me because I am no longer a Christian. I am a pagan witch, and it's because of that community.
Yeah, and that's amazing because that is what it's all about, right? Is feeling where you're going to be appreciated, where you're going to find that love and that support and everything else like that. So that is definitely vital, and I do want to talk more about that. But before we go into it, Austin, how about yourself? Like, what kind of communities? What kind of brought you to the community aspect? Because you know, I see you on TikTok live a lot. Heck, Megan sends me your videos every time you go live.
Well,
so what brought you to it?
I'm also part of the heathen, Norse pagan, and witch communities as well. I actually found my calling about 3 years ago. Been practicing a little over 2 now. I was strictly a Norse pagan at first, but I've recently collected other deities such as the Morgan and Lilith. So I'm now what I consider a multi-class pagan.
Or eclectic. There's a few different terms that people put on it.
I don't really prefer the term collective pagan. I think the multi-class kind of gives a better ring to it.
I like it.
But like Megan said, the community itself is what drew me into it. Mm-hmm. Granted, I started off with TVC, but through them I met some very wonderful people, and while all that went south, I've still kept wonderful relationships with the White Wolf Valkyrie, Kara the Silver Wolf Valkyrie, the Wandering Heathen, Black Hat Holistics, and many, many others throughout the community who have been great influences on me personally.
Yeah, and that's another big thing, right? And one of the things about it is recognizing when a community really isn't a community. Recognizing when they're not there for everybody's best interest, they're there for themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a big thing that we miss, because we see these communities, we see, especially these days in the modern era with Discord servers and everything else like that, we see these things, spring up, and it's like, oh yeah, I'll join your server. We'll do this, that, and the third. And then you see things kind of get a little sideways. You see things kind of go downhill.
Yep.
But due to one reason or another, maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't see it. In the case of certain servers where you had to be an admin to see everything. And you kind of get in this situation where you thought a community was going to be there for everybody, for the collective, and you realize that wasn't the case. You had to think their way. You had to believe things their way. And one of the big things that I have been a big proponent of is a community is going to have a difference of opinion. They're going to have differentiating thoughts and see things differently. And so it's about coming together as, kind of like you would in a marriage or a relationship or anything else like that, where sometimes you got to compromise and be like, all right, look, this is wrong. This is wrong. Let's try to get to right. Like, let's see if we can get to the right way of doing things and compromise on this. Or maybe, hey, maybe you're both right in your both viewpoints, but you're not going to agree. So let's bring it to the middle, or as close to the middle as we can get, and do that. And I think we are dismissing that a lot in even society today. We have seen,
absolutely.
oh yeah, we've seen media, we've seen Discord servers, we've seen it on TikTok, on Twitter, on everything else, where now you have these communities that should come together and help each other become disparate, because now it's, I view things this way, I view things this way, I don't want to talk to you no more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. People don't actively listen anymore, and that's a huge problem.
It really is.
Well, and that was something I talked about before, is active listening. It's huge, because too many people listen to respond, not listen to actually hear.
Yes. That is one of the biggest issues today, whether it be politics, personal relationships, business, or whatever. It's always, oh, I'm just going to listen so I can give an immediate response, whether it be positive, negative, or out of anger, instead of, oh, okay, I need to take what they just said, compromise an actual response instead of reacting out of pure emotion, and figure this out in a situation that's going to benefit us both.
Definitely. And I find that I have found, at least for myself and my journey down Norse paganism, and for me, I only started really researching, learning, and doing everything through finding Norse Talk last year, early last year. And it was one of those things where I felt it made me more in tune to logic and really kind of bringing my emotions in check. You still deal with your emotions, you still face those issues, but when you respond, when you talk to people, you think things through more logically. But I think even in the Norse pagan community, we see too many people quick to respond based on emotion and not thinking things through. And that is a huge thing, that if you follow any faith, it doesn't matter what it is, you should really kind of think your thoughts through before you respond, because most faiths, actually, if I'm not mistaken, all faiths preach kindness, generosity, love, being there for people, helping each other, the poor, the rich, it doesn't matter, helping everybody when you can. And yet so many are quick to use their faith as a crutch and say, oh, this is against my I can't support you at all. I can't be there for you. You need to be ostracized from all communities. And that is one of those things that I will never be for, because I always tell people, you're my warriors, you're my family, and this is what matters, is we come together. And that's huge for me.
Oh, absolutely. I have seen that with so many different communities. And when I first joined, Norse and pagan and witch talk, there was so much going on with the combativeness between the Christians and that community. And I was just like, look, as a Christian, I don't think this way. I am actively listening to you, listening to your faith, respecting it and appreciating it for what it is. I want to learn more about it. So can you please give me more information? And that community they were so surprised that someone as a different faith, especially Christianity, was so open to listen to them instead of automatically judging them.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Austin?
Well, one of the biggest things, like you came back to helping each other out, one of the biggest things that's preached within Norse paganism is hospitality. It's covered in the first 40 verses of the havamal.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's what it is, like 30 or 40. That's
Yeah.
not the big. That's like the whole first quarter of it is, hey,
Hospitality. So, of course, anytime I have a guest, whether it be you, Cyberwolf, or it be you, Megan, I'm going to give y'all anything you need because that's what makes me a good host. And even if y'all were just coming to visit for a few hours, anything you would need, you would have. Just like anything you need, whether y'all are 5 miles away or 500 miles away, anything I can do to help you, I'm going to, because that is what is preached so much within the havamal and within Norse paganism in general.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people twist what. Then again, I think this about any faith is a lot of things get twisted. A lot of people take excerpts of just what'll feed their narrative, feed what they want to feel, and not the entire thing. And again, this is why community is so important to me, because I want to talk to people that have a differing opinion and actually come to some sort of consensus of, am I wrong? Like, I want to know if I'm wrong, not am I wrong emotionally, like you have an emotional response, so I'm wrong because it hurts your feelings. No. I want to know if I'm wrong because I want to come to a logical conclusion. Like, can you inform me where my thought process is messed up? And that's where I rely on community, because when we look at online and social media and all these other things, so many people are quick to give that emotional response. And then you, as someone that's going to think initially emotionally when you read it, are going to be like, you're either going to get really mad or you're going to enter your echo chamber and be like, oh, yeah, all this is right. Everything they say is right. It's all right because this person said it. It has to be right, without thinking things through. And I talked about this 2 weeks ago, these echo chambers we put ourselves in, which is why we need diverse communities of everybody. So you're not in an echo chamber. You should never be in an echo chamber.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
So,
that's why I'm in multiple discords.
I got too many to count. Way too many.
I'm getting there.
Between the Norse pagan Discord servers I'm in, and then I'm in all my cybersecurity Discord servers, which is a whole nother family and community I have, which I'm bringing some of our friends and family along for the ride. And then I have my family. I have other communities that I'm part of. You look at when you walk outside, that's your community. That's your neighbors should be your friends. And don't get me wrong, there are some idiot neighbors that you never want to be friends with. It happens. But these are people that you should want to communicate with, because when things hit the fan, and I don't care what anybody says, I will say it here, it's coming. Things are going to hit the fan, and stuff goes sideways. You want to have those people you can rely on. That I can't get to Texas to visit my brother from the Army, so I'm going to need other people that I can rely on, that we can help each other out and be like, hey, look, I got vegetables. Do you have, this, that, and the third? Like, let's figure this out together. And so that's where I think the greater community of what we do is very, very vital.
Oh, absolutely. Like just on my street alone. So I live in Florida, and the hurricane season, we get some pretty nasty weather here. So when we know a hurricane is coming, like half the block just, kind of goes to each other. Hey, this is what I have. If you need anything, please let me know. We've got each other. Or even like my next door neighbor, he'll let me know when he goes on vacation just so I can keep an eye on the house. I do the same thing to him. When I go on vacation, I let him know, hey, I'm going to be gone from here to here. Like, if you see anything, please call the police because I'm not home.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same with my neighbors. Anytime I'm leaving for a certain amount of days, I let them know, hey, look, I'm either working out of town, I'm going on vacation, I'll be gone from this day to this day. I need you to can you feed the cats? And can you just keep an eye on the house? Okay,
Yep.
sure, no problem. Tornado season is real bad here in Kentucky some years. Last year, we had 2 towns pretty much destroyed by an F3 that came through. The company I work for next day sent 12 guys down to put a temporary roof on a school pro bono.
And see, things like that are awesome to see because and that's what I am seeing. That's what I have seen come out of the Pagan Project, which we all know about. Um, and that's what I have seen that I've tried to do, even with Security Happy Hour and a few other cyber supply drop, a few other groups that I'm part of in cybersecurity. Is things are expensive. People are on hard times, and it's going to continue. I don't see a way out of it anytime soon, because unless you are in a white collar job, I'm sorry, if you're working blue collar, you're strapped. You are literally, unless you're going without internet, without Netflix, without cell phone, like you are strapped. And so blue collar workers, as important as they are, like it's almost as bad as teachers sometimes where they're not making money. They're
Yeah.
they're they're not. Look at your doctors and nurses that are putting in 12, 24, 36, 48-hour days. They're not making the money people think they are. Like, I legitimately, unless you want a private practice, I had to find this out a few years ago. One of my buddies that's an ER doctor, he got paid by the hour. So even though he had gone through all that school, done all this stuff, ER doctor paid by the hour because he's not private practice. He's not collecting a salary, which means if he doesn't work, his family doesn't get fed.
Oh, wow.
So,
I did not know that.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
So
I didn't
during
either.
during the pandemic and everything, he was working 24, 48 hours because A, they needed him, and B, guess what? I'll collect overtime. It's a paycheck. So when you think of your doctors and nurses that are working these long shifts, I gotta say, unless you're at some really big hospital, they're probably paid hourly, which means you might want to give them a break because it's bad enough they're working this long, on top of the fact that they're not paid a salary. They're working that to save your life on no sleep. And that is something that a lot of people don't understand. And blue collar is the same way. You're working your 12-hour days. You're working
Hmm.
sometimes 20, overnight. Sometimes you get sucked in. You got to be on a job for 24 hours because, you got during, heat season or cold season, you've got AC units and, HVAC and furnaces and what plumbing and all this stuff just breaking down. You're on call, which means they call you at midnight. It's just as bad as my job, only it's worse because guess what? You got to travel and I don't. I just got to walk the 5 feet to my computer. Like, it's bad. Like, and so now you got to go and actually actively do something. And so that's why I think a lot of your blue collar workers come together because they know the struggle. They know what it's like. And if you've not worked it, if you've not been there, sorry, you're not going to understand it. You can try, but you're not going to.
No.
Absolutely.
Oh, it is especially true, and I can relate more than most because I'm a commercial roofer by trade. And I'm 2.5 hours away from home right now. Oh, after I get done with this job, I'm going to be down in Huntsville, Alabama, which is about 8 hours away from my house. Oh, I'm going to be on the road pretty much the rest of the year, and yeah, working out of town is great because I work long days, I get great paychecks, but everywhere else in my life kind of suffers at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where you got to kind of look at it. And that's where I think it really is vital to have a valid community and support system and family behind you because you can look at a lot of these career fields. And look, a lot of people want to talk about, let's just say, one of the big ones for me, just because of my family and how I live my life, is wrestling. I love wrestling. But you look at something like WWE, these dudes are unless they're part time, they've been there for a while, they don't have to be there every night. A lot of these guys are working 350 days a year. So they're
Mm-hmm.
always on the road. So their relationships, their families, they suffer. And if you have a family after you get in, I'm sorry, unless they're in the business with you, there is a good chance it's not going to make it. The divorce rate, you might as well look at it as, any career field that requires you to travel a lot and be gone all the time. their divorce rate is just as high, and somebody's probably going to get mad at me for saying this, but it's probably just as high as a soldier's divorce rate or a military member's divorce rate, because they're always gone. You can't compare the work. I'm not going to compare the work, the pay, or anything like that. Just the amount of time you're gone. Family life is if they're not the one, I'm sorry, they're going to be gone eventually, because you're not there. They can't support you through all that, and it happens. And so I look at these things as of how we choose our support systems, how we choose our communities. And to me, it's always going to go back to who's your family.
Oh, absolutely.
Always.
100% agree.
What's crazy with like TikTok and and me finding that community, like I have seen that community grow so much, and I have seen so many good things that this community has done for every single person. Like if there is someone struggling and they put it out there that to one person that they are struggling, next thing you know, the whole entire community knows, and they are backing that person, whether it be sharing the videos, liking the videos, or donating, if they need money because they're struggling financially. They are there with them, for them. If they're struggling mentally, next thing you know, their inboxes and notifications are just inundated, because that's what this community does for everyone. And it's what I love so much about it, is the fact that they lift everyone up in the community so much.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm going to be 100% honest and give y'all a little peek into my personal life. A couple months ago, I entered a real bad depression after me and my ex split. If it was not for the Wandering Heathen and Black Hat Holistics, I do not want to think about where I would be at, because they were my support system. And then later on came Germs, and then more and more I reconnected with Amanda, and I reconnected with Cara. Eventually I connected with Megan, and life has been great. Without the community behind me, there's no telling where I would be at.
And that's huge, because, you know, I was dealing with some stuff. I mean, granted, ever since I left the army, I've been going on and off with depression, anxiety. I've got disorders that, and I've not hidden it. Anybody who follows any of my content for any length of time will eventually see it. I suffer from depression, anxiety, all these other things. And so for me, beyond my wife being there for me, last year, because it was one of those things, I didn't feel like I could talk to like my parents or my sisters. It was just something it didn't feel right to me to like burden them or talk to them about these situations. But talking to my wife was something. I live with her. I have to be able to. That on top of the fact that she would see it and she'd be like, "What's wrong?" And I'm sitting there, nothing. Liar. What's wrong? I'm fine. Liar. What's wrong? I'm fine. Liar. All right, give me a week or two. I'll eventually tell you. We'll get into an argument about it and we'll carry on. Uh, but for me, finding this path has helped me a lot, because I have reconnected with nature. I've reconnected with just kind of finding myself and who I am as a person, and it's allowed me to see things differently and see things through other people's eyes and how they view situations. Whereas, like yourself, Megan, raised Christian. When I going through that, I always felt like, and me and my mother getting arguments about it all the time is, oh, it's, God will carry you through everything. God will do this. God will do that. God will do this. God will do that. I never felt spoken to. And that's nothing against other Christians who feel it, who it's in them. I truly believe that you have to find what speaks to you. To me, especially as I got into adulthood, it just didn't. I did not have that same connection. I did not have a relationship. There was nothing there. I honestly felt nothing but alone in terms of any faith. And so finding this, I find the animals are more around more often. I see the crows, the ravens, the deer, the wolves, just everything just speaks to me more. And so for me, it makes it seem like when I'm struggling, somebody's listening and somebody's saying, "You'll be all right.
Oh,
You're
absolutely.
you're gonna struggle, but guess what? Put in the work, pick yourself back up, and let's keep it moving." And
Oh,
that has
man.
given me more motivation and more energy over the past year than probably anything else has. And then being
Oh,
able to
absolutely.
take that message and deliver it in such a way where I'm not preaching a faith. I'm just giving my energy. I'm just motivating others and being like, look, let's go along for the ride. You don't have to believe what I believe. I really don't care if you do or not. That's not what this is about. This is about I want to motivate you. And if my energy can do that, let's keep it moving.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that
100%.
and that's to me, that's community. That's family. That's what it should be about is how can we motivate each other? How can we inspire each other to keep doing better? Because we're gonna
Oh,
fall, but how do we pick ourselves back up and keep doing more?
oh, absolutely. I have met more people now that I have considered close friends, best friends, family in this community than I have ever had in physical, here. I have found more online than I have in my actual, real life. And that community means everything to me. That community is my lifeline.
Yeah, 100% agree with both of y'all. Because y'all have both seen some of the content I've done with other creators. The community is what is important. The community is what gives us strength, gives each other strength, and allows others, it inspires each other as well to become their true selves and look to what makes them happy versus what makes society happy.
And I think, and you hit the nail on the head right there for me, is too much is about what's going to make others happy and what's going to be right for. I want to make society happy. I don't want to get canceled. I don't want this. I don't want that. Look, I'm going to be honest. There are people out there that I don't agree with everything they say, but I agree with other things they say. So I'm going to follow them and support them. And if I don't agree with something they say at that time, I don't agree with it. All right, cool. I'm going to move on. Why have we gotten away from that? And as a community, we should be able to support that. Like, hey man, I don't agree with you, but I still love you. And I look, I'm agreeing on a lot of other points. There are just certain things that I can't agree with this personally. And this is my logic behind it. This is why I feel this way. And I'm not gonna say I'm right. I'm not gonna say you're right. I'm not gonna say either of us are wrong. It's just where I'm at in my life, and this is how I feel. And it's not an argument. And I think in this community, the ones that are more about community will see things that way. The
Oh,
ones that
absolutely.
want you have to believe what I believe or I can't talk to you no more, those are the ones that I step away from. Those are the ones that I look at and go, you know what? I'm done. I don't want no more of this.
Well, I mean, look how the Pagan Project started. It started with a couple of creators, wanting to do something for the community, and look what it's turned into. There have been so many book giveaways and jewelry giveaways and everything under the sun, just because a few creators went, "Hey, let's do something positive for the community," and it has just turned into this humongous thing that I am so absolutely proud of this community for.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of those things where I wasn't even part of any of that. Any of what went on with all those because I kind of was like, anytime I saw something come up, actually, I never got involved in any drama, which was legit drama. Don't get me wrong. Some of the stuff that was done was utter and complete BS.
Oh,
But
same.
I just didn't want my page and my commentary to be about that. I was always about motivation, inspiration. That's how I'll always be. So anything that was negative, I will not promote. And I feel like giving people these voices promotes that negativity. Even if you're doing right by trying to counteract it and come up with your own arguments, the moment you show their face, show their name, say their name, you're giving popularity to them, and which means people are going to go look, they're going to go make money, things like this are going to happen. They might fall into the trap. So it's just something I just never wanted to be about. I always wanted to be about positivity, inspiration, and things like that. But because of who I'm friends with and knowing, well, they made the list. The moment this project came up, and yes, that's a Chris Jericho reference of you just made the list. The moment this project came up, I immediately reached out to Nord and I was like, look, homie, what you need? I said, I'm there
Same.
110%. What do you need? And that's where I got a new job. I started making some more money, and we were coming around to the first few giveaways. And I immediately went online, bought some books, and said, let's give them away.
And see, with me, it's more so, look, I have ADHD horribly. I am unorganized as heck. So what I just did was donated to the people who are organized enough to do this for the community and go, hey, here's the money, take it and do what you need with it.
And that's the thing, though, right? It's all about, some people don't have money, and that's okay. But guess what? Be part of the project. You want to, maybe you don't have a Mjolnir yet, or an arm ring. I don't even have an arm ring yet. Or books or something like that. That's fine. Guess what? Share the videos, put your comments in, do what's asked to be, recognized and have a chance to win, and we'll help you out. And that's the biggest thing. Share the videos and do all this, because we don't want your money. Like, we're not here to sell you merchandise and be like, oh yeah, buy this, or I have an affiliate link for this site, go here and buy these books from here, and then I get paid from it. No, that's not what it's about. Look, if I wanted to sell you stuff, I have my own merchandise, I have my own store, but I don't promote it. I don't sit here every video and go, oh yeah, buy my merchandise. No, that doesn't happen. I wear it, A, because it means something to me, and B, because if you want it and you really want it, you can go find it. Otherwise, my merchandise is commercial. It is a project for me. I will never put it in the same vein of what we're doing with the community. And that is where the difference comes in. Is too many people are taking advantage of the Viking show, of Last Kingdom, of the Faith, and saying, hey, I'm going to mass produce like 100 of these and they're for sale.
Yep.
Some of those designs are way too intricate to mass produce on a scale at which you're doing. Okay, which means they mean nothing to you. You have literally told somebody else that has a machine that can make it, so it's not handcrafted. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd rather have something from somebody that's handmade. And I fell into that trap. I won't lie. I fell into it. I've pulled myself away from it, but I fell into the same trap and was like, that it's not the same thing. Now you're just looking for money. Now that's what you're trying to do. And I'm all for someone trying to make a living. I'm all for someone making their money, and you do you, boo-boo. If people want to buy in and that's what they want to do, but that's not the community I want to be a part of. Even my cybersecurity family, most of us are trying to give things away, because guess what? We've got jobs. We make money. You want to support us, great, but otherwise, I'm going to give you things eventually.
Absolutely.
Yep. And that is part of the reason why I'm working with Black Hat Holistics on a giveaway. I commissioned her to make 2 Mjolnirs, one just a basic on a silver chain, and one is going to be an antique silver Mjolnir with obsidian beads.
And that's awesome, because if we can support them, and that, again, that's why I went through the goal, because I was like, look, I called up Oculus 3 Knives, said, do you do armbands and Mjolnirs? And he's like, nah, but I know someone that does. All right, cool. We hooked up. I said, hey, I'm going to send you this amount of money. Make what you can. Make what you can. Send it to me. Be good to go. And just because he hadn't been getting business, he's like, dude, this means so much. I got you. We're going to make it happen. And he's making more than I even thought was going to be made. And I'm like, okay. Like, I'm not even mad at it, because it's handcrafted. It means something to him. And it's going to mean something, or should mean something, to the people that are going to get it, because there's actual personality. There's actual craftsmanship that goes into it, versus just something that I could buy from any store online.
One thing that I'm thinking about doing with the giveaway that I'm working with Bells on is for the Obsidian Mjolnir, is I want people to nominate somebody for it. Somebody who's been a great influence on the community, who has done nothing but try to improve it, who has brought people together. And right off the top of my head, I can think of 3 people: Amanda, Cara, And I honestly have to say Tilla.
Oh,
Tilla's good people. Amanda's good people. I ain't gonna lie, I'm one of the ones that put her in for the altar cloth that she won, because she's good people. And I was like, me and her started talking. She wants to get into cybersecurity. I'm like, oh, now you're part of two of my families. Bet. Hey, this is who I want to win this, and this is why. And that was why, because she opened up to me. We had long conversations, and the fact that she was willing to talk to me and we could discuss things and have an open conversation and open, dialogue about just our lives and what's been going on was very important to me. And not everybody can do that. And so I think that's vital. And that's, again, that's why
community.
that's why I have found so much about this, with Nor Druid, and with, Megan and Austin, even being on the lives and talking to you guys, and, Tilla, and so many others, Rooster, and, it Beckerath. For all those that don't know, Beckerath is the one that made this. He made my walking stick
Oh,
by
wow.
hand. I told him I have a bad back. I said I want something. I'm 6'3". It's got to be a little bit big. And he made it by hand. And so for me, that's vital. Like that community, that being able to work together and talk, and somebody make you something based on what you're going through and dealing with. Like, you don't get that every day. And if you go to somebody and you're like, hey, I need this, can you help me out? Oh yeah, go to my store and just go buy it and blah blah blah. Not the same feeling. But if I'm gonna sit here and give you something like about me, my personal life, what I'm dealing with, and you're like, I got you. I know exactly what you need.
Oh yeah. Like I
It's,
suffered through some health issues, and like in the discords that we're in together, I've gone and asked questions like, hey, I don't like going this route, so holistically can I go this route? And so many people popped up with questions or private messages being like, hey, this is what you can do to help reduce your pain or help reduce this, and I wouldn't have known that.
Like with your walking stick, dude, I had to get rid of a set of runes I had because they were tied to my ex. The Wandering Heathen made these for me, sent them out within a week, charged me nothing for them. He's like, dude, you lost a set of runes. You had to get rid of them. They were tied to your ex. We understand. These are for you. I'm like, dude, at least let me pay you for them. I'm not going to take any of your money. He wouldn't even let me reimburse him for shipping.
And this is where I think a lot of people need to find their communities. Now, I will say this: Cyber Warrior Studios, my cyber family, everything like that, I'm open to everybody. So I don't even care if you do cybersecurity. You ever want a family to join? You want to be one of my warriors all day, every day, hands down. We can talk. We could have a conversation. I don't care. The moment you start bringing up your faith or identity as who you are versus just something you believe, like, this is solely me, that is when we're going to have a conversation. I'm like, look, I don't care about you externally. I care about what's in your heart. I care about what's in your soul. Who are you as a person? And that was the conversation I had 2 weeks ago. What's your legacy and who are you? And the moment you describe who you are based on your exterior is the moment I look at you and go, look, either we're going to have a conversation and change that, or you're going to have to find a new community, because I don't do exterior around here. I care about who you are as a person. And that's what always matters to me.
Absolutely.
So with that, I want to know, besides our community that collectively we're in, are there any other communities, any other families, any other support systems that you have found really helped you in your life, and or you would recommend others kind of just look into as a possibility for if they need help?
I'm not a part of it anymore just because as a parent, I can't do it anymore because of hours and kids. But the theater community, you want a community that will uplift you and be there for you, community theater. Like
Oh yeah.
I have found so many amazing people through the community theater.
What about you, Austin?
Honestly, the gaming community, whether it be online, board play, like D&D games or whatever. I've met some wonderful people playing PlayStation 4, playing well, not D&D, but playing Yu-Gi-Oh, all sorts of different games, whether it be in person or not. And anytime I've needed somebody to talk to, if none of my other friends are available, I just hit them up. Hey, look, I know we haven't talked in a bit. I'm struggling. Dude, I got you. I got you right here.
Yeah, definitely. And I
Um,
think that's a huge one that people dismiss. And you'll see it a lot. I've unfortunately on TikTok, I fall into both realms. I find people on both sides of the fence for just about everything out there. Just because I don't pick a side on anything. I just like what I like and go about my daily business. So I have seen those that talk a lot of crap on gamers and those that are like preaching why it's so important and why people are gamers and kind of what it does for them. And growing up, I was a gamer myself. I mean, granted, I was always a jock. I played sports, but I always loved games. And in college, I almost failed out of college because of me playing games and the slight alcohol problem I had at the time. But it was for me, I'd be playing Call of Duty till 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and just talking to people, and you just get invested. And it's because so much of it is it allowed me to hyper focus. It allowed me to finally shut everything out and just focus.
mhm,
And I would talk to people, but I was never a pro gamer. So I didn't like have a team. I didn't have a bunch of people that I would, talk to all the time. But I understand how gamers get into these families, these communities, because it is, especially if you become like a streamer and stuff like that, a lot of your supporters will be there for you. One of the reasons is because you're their entertainment and, at the same time, maybe showing them something they didn't know. But B, because maybe you're giving them an outlet. Maybe just as they can become your outlet, you become theirs. And it's something people don't recognize and don't understand the importance of these different avenues of not just entertainment, but hobbies and focus and community and support. They just forget about it. And they're like, oh, I don't agree with that. So no, you're not allowed to have that. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I
come on.
agreed completely. It's ridiculous.
it really is. Another thing I've found is people in the medical community, because I'm studying herbal medicine
Mhm.
at the moment, and I've kind of joined a couple of groups on Facebook. But you see holistic people versus traditional medicine in there, and the arguments they have are just ridiculous. I'm like, okay, they're literally suggesting the same thing, except one is without the chemicals by Big Pharma.
And I think you're gonna see a lot of that, and it's based on how people are raised. And this is where you got to kind of look at the way things are these days, and with everything being so polarized, no matter what you do, it becomes polarized in some way. People react emotionally based on, oh, I was brought up this way, it has to be this way, this is the way it is. Look, I was brought up as somebody who never, was allowed to be hurt. If I was hurt, unless it was life, limb, or eyesight, I don't want to hear about it. Go about your business. I take shots to the knee playing football. You'll be all right tomorrow. Let's ice it and you'll be okay. I don't know if I ever tore ligaments, a meniscus, or anything else like that, but you sucked it up and you drove on.
Hmm.
But I look at society, I look at these things today and the communities we get involved in, and a lot of it comes down to like kind of faith-based practices of natural medicine. I don't care what anybody says, natural medicine worked for years. Natural immune system worked for years. It wasn't until somebody wanted to make a buck that we are like, oh, we got to synthesize a cure and we got to do this and we got to do that and we got to do this. And now things have gotten so expensive and people are making so much money off of it. Then when natural cures actually would work, well, no, you got to be against that because this pill will do it for you. Granted, it has 10 million different side effects that might include death, but this is what you need to use in order to get cured.
Hmm.
Um, Homie, if the side effect is death, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, agree.
I'll go smoke a joint, and I don't even do drugs. I will go smoke a joint before I try anything that has a side effect worse than the actual disease. Kind of like
Oh,
restless
yeah.
leg syndrome. How many pills came out for restless leg syndrome that were like, hey, the side effect might include constipation, um, cancer, this, that, the third, and you're like, I'll struggle to sleep. It'll be okay. I'll go take some Ambien or something. I don't know. I'd rather do that than take
Ooh.
something.
I'll go run a mile before I go to bed.
Right.
There's anal bleeding.
Right. Like I'll drink some beer. It'll be okay. Like we'll figure it out.
Well, it's funny you say that because like, so personal, I had a sleep study done and they found out that I don't REM. I stay in the lightest stage of sleep. And at one point my doctor had me on 5 different sleep medications to like get me into a deep sleep and it didn't work. You know what does work though? Like, give me a drink or 2 of whiskey and I will sleep throughout the entire night.
And that's that's another issue, and you'll see a lot in my other community I'm a part of, the military community, where it is very hard for us to get to sleep. I have diagnosed insomnia. Granted, I don't have sleep apnea or very, very mild sleep apnea, so they won't give me a machine or anything. But I've talked to the doctors. Yes, diagnosed insomnia. I can't sleep. But you allow me to go out in the nature, you allow me to kind of meditate, you allow me to drink a beer or two, and yeah, I'll go out and pass out. Now, once I'm out, that's the difference. Once I'm out, I'm out.
Yeah.
I some nights I wake up and can't get back to sleep, so I'll sleep for about an hour or two of like what I feel is solid sleep, and then I'll wake up. It'll be 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, man, I got like 5 hours. Can I get back to sleep? I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
Some nights it works, some nights it doesn't, and some nights it works, and you wake up an hour later, and you're like, oh, come on. But this is, only certain communities understand this. If you're not dealing with it, if you haven't dealt with it, this is why we have separate communities. I'm in cybersecurity. Nobody that's not in cybersecurity or IT is going to understand half the stuff that comes out of my mouth if I'm talking about my job. So I can't go to, say, a plumber or a roofer and be like, hey, man, I've been dealing with all this. Any chance you can help? He's going to look at me like I'm retarded and be like, hey, can I put a roof on your house? Like, that's his length of understanding. But you break it down and you sit here and be like, hey, look, man, I've been up for 24 hours. Do you have anything that you've been dealing with? Like, can you help me out with this? Now you're talking their terms. Now you're talking something relatable. And this is where I think all these communities can come together is, guess what? You may have different jobs, you may have different faiths, you may have different things that you believe in, but ultimately, as society, we deal with the same struggles.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's funny, because depending on the roof you're talking about, whether it be commercial or residential, the first thought in their brain is not going to be, oh, can I put a roof on your house? It's going to be like, where's the beer?
Well, I mean, I always come with beer. Let's be honest. I mean, that's kind of how we do things around here. I'll pay in beer. I may need someone to look at like a skylight or something. I pay in beer, and then if I need real work done, then okay, then I'll dish out some money. But an inspection, hey, can you come take a look at this? I got a 12-pack for you. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I'm on my way.
But yeah, so saying that, I do want, before we go, I'll start with you, Austin, because Megan, you got to start last time. For any words of wisdom that you could give to people listening, and it could be faith, it could be community, it could be anything, any words of wisdom you have for anybody before we go.
Most important words of wisdom I can offer right now is no matter what community you're getting into, whether it be a new one, an old one, or looking into communities, always do your research, because you never know what communities are actually going to be good for you, what communities are not going to be good for you, and what communities are overall just full of shit. Sorry for the language, but there's no other way to put it.
And you're right. Too many times we fall into traps where we think, oh, this one looks good, and then you start getting into it and you realize it's a cult.
And you make
y'all know where I'm going with that. I'm gonna say it because I wasn't part of it, so I'm gonna freely say it.
Oh, I was a part of it, and I ended up on the list. So
you just made the list. All right, I love it. And you're right. We do got to do our research, because, again, this comes down to echo chambers, blind faith, not researching, just believing everything somebody says. And that is very important. If you're not going to do your research on the people you're dealing with, on the community you're involved with, what they stand for, what they're donating to. Megan, before we go to you, I will point out one thing, and it is something that we see quite frequently today, is with certain aspects of society and communities, you got big corporations that are doing certain things and donating to certain people in certain industries and this, that, the third, but nobody wants to research that. So when one thing happens and it becomes blatant from another company, everybody's like, oh, I'm going to go support all these, without realizing they're doing the exact same thing. They just haven't put it in your face. So do your research before you complain about something. I will say that.
Absolutely.
If you're not going to do your research, then I'm sorry. That's just because
That's on you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can't claim victim if you're willfully ignorant.
Oh, absolutely. And too many people are.
Oh, for sure. If you're I'll admit there are things I am willfully ignorant on, and that's because I don't want to be involved in it at all. So nope, y'all can have that. I don't want to know nothing about it. I don't want to hear nothing about it. I'm out. See ya.
Yep.
I willfully ignorant on certain topics, but the ones that matter to me, I do my research. I figure things out, and I read between the lines of what's really being said in certain issues and stuff like that. So research is key. Hey, what do you know? It's key in cybersecurity too. And this show ain't even about cybersecurity or faith in general, but I wanted to do something new, so I figure we'll bring it all up today. But Megan, before we go, give me some words of wisdom for our listeners.
So my words of wisdom would be, if you are part of a community and you are struggling, please reach out. That is what community is for. I know personally, sometimes I don't want to feel like a burden to other people or put my burdens on other people. But if you are struggling, reach out to your community, because you would be surprised how many people care about you and will be willing to uplift you or do whatever they can to help you out in any situation. Reach out, because I'd rather read your problems than your eulogy.
Yeah, and that's something we hear a lot in the veteran community. I'd rather listen to you. I'd rather help you out. I'd rather hear all your problems. And you don't even have to ask me to fix it. Heck, maybe it's something I can't fix. Maybe you just need to vent. But I would rather listen to you cry than be the one crying at your funeral.
Absolutely.
I absolutely would. There's too many
100%.
people that I've lost over suddenness, whether it be 22 a day, stroke, cancer, you name it. Too many people in my life I have lost that I didn't get those last moments with. I didn't get the chance to hear them vent. I didn't get any of this. I was just at a funeral about a year or two ago with a buddy I didn't even know had cancer. I had thought I had talked to him recently, and it turns out it had been way too long. And so I find out that he died. I didn't even get any. I didn't even get any last moments with him. It was just dead. And so things like that bother me. So yes, you're absolutely correct, Megan. I would rather you vent to me and complain and everything else, and be like, look, I don't want you to fix it. All right, cool. I don't have to. I'll be your shoulder. I'll be your rock. I don't care. And that's what our families are for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want to give my words of wisdom, because y'all know I love to do that. That's what the show's about. It is Odin's Day. This is always released on Odin's Day, and Odin was a god of wisdom, among other things. But you know what? That's where I give him his credit, because as a god and deity, we're not going to get into it. But he was the god of wisdom, and that was what he was always searching for. So with that, community is vital. And you can bring disparate communities together over common ground. And that common ground could just be, we are humanity, we are one people, and we are society, and we need to learn to get along, and we need to learn to love each other. You can correct the bad. You can fix the bad in your industry. I know in the Norse pagan community, we are currently working on that with the community we previously had online. I know in cybersecurity, we try to do it all the time. We try to fix the hiring. We try to fix the education. We try to fix the elitism. So much in the cybersecurity community we try to fix. And I know, same with teachers unions and blue collar workers and doctors. One of the things I want everybody to realize before I go off air is very simply this. Those who you think have your back higher up the food chain Probably don't. Actually, I'm going to all but guarantee they don't. So if you're still one of those that are sitting there saying, oh, yeah, they care about me. No, they make too much money to care about you. Just going to put that out there. You're just a number to them. And honestly, you're just a number that's going to take from their pocket or give to them, one of the two. So rely on the community that's right here. Rely on those that you make just as much as. Or maybe you make more than or less than. It doesn't matter. But they're here to talk to you, and they're not in some ivory tower and don't have the time of day for you. So I'll leave with that. Those are my words of wisdom, and I hope you all become one of my warriors. If you're listening to this, you probably already are one of my warriors, but that's okay. Spread the word, rate this episode, share it, put comments on YouTube, wherever you're listening. Good Pods lets you put comments on every episode too. So if you're just listening on Good Pods, you could actually comment every episode, kind of like YouTube. It's a great aspect that you have in podcasting now. Otherwise, look, you're all my warriors. You're all my family. This is Cyber Warrior Studios. This has been another episode of Walk With Me, and this is all about your journey, your path. We're all different. We're all going to have a different one. Otherwise, I'm the Cyber Warrior. I will catch you all next time. Take care and have a great Odin's Day.